Okay, check the V-twin tracking number order. It is not going to be here today, so I will not be able to finish buttoning up this whole motor like I hoped. Parts are supposed to be here tomorrow, so I put the cam cover back on. Working on putting the primary back together now too, so I'll get the whole bottom end done, and then all I'll have left is just buttoning up the top end tomorrow. But on this primary, I wanted to go over this because there's a ton of information on how to adjust Sportster primary chains or how to install a chain tensioner. Most of them for Evo stuff is new. This is the earlier, it's a 80, like I said, 89, but it does have the earlier style bottom end, like 82-ish, I think, is when they started doing these. Early iron heads have a 2-bolt adjuster that goes up and down. I like that one better, but this is what they did for several of those kind of crossover years. So this is actually more like an iron head style than it is a Evo. And so if you Google how to put in Evo chain tensioner, it's all going to be the new style. With this, you got a spring, you got a tensioner shoe, teardrop-ish shaped. This is going to ride this way, goes through that through bolt that comes through the primary, so this will sit in here like this. Your spring goes around this and keeps tension down. At first, you might think it needs to go up, to put tension up on this spring. The spring is not what holds your chain tension on your primary. There's a through bolt that goes through the cover, which we'll get into in a minute. The spring keeps pressure down, so this thing's not slopping around and banging on the case the entire time. So what you got to do is lay this spring around this shoe like so, but these tabs go on the top side of this and push downward pressure. This matches up on the case or rides on the case, and the spring pressure keeps this downward tension. So when you put it together, this will slide through on the top, and the spring's kind of worn out. I mean, it's got tension, but it's definitely got a little bit of wear to it. This will slide over the stud like so, and then these little fingers ride on the tensioner. This rides in on the case. The issue you run into a lot of the times, and I guarantee you it's going to do it. Let me see if I can get you guys closer. When I put tension on this finger that rides on this tensioner will drop below it like so, where it's no longer on the top side, and you lose your spring tension. So this will go in like so. Pull this up into the case. Hopefully that thing stays in place. Or it falls down like that, which is what you don't want. Again, this kind of has to stay on the top side, so I might have to bend that over a little bit. This goes on like so. Chain comes up. So I'm going to put this over on the vise and bend this over a little bit. Overbent it, but now it's pinching significantly more here, which is fine. Okay, so on the primary tensioner shoe, this goes in this way. It is sprung loaded to keep that down towards the primary. When I put the case on, the bolt's going to kick this up, and this will push this way. Okay, so here's our inner primary, or outer primary rather. It's got lock ring around this adjuster. Clutch cable goes that way, pulls the ramp out, and hits the push rod adjuster, which we'll go over a little bit later on. Here's that tensioner shoe I was talking about. This is what pushes up. So basically this threads in, it's a flathead with a lock nut. This threads up and puts upward pressure on this tensioner shoe. So I'll slap this back on and then we'll start going through the adjustment on that. Let me wipe this down. I'm going to gasket seal the primary gasket to the case, and then we'll be back once I get it cleaned up. A little gasket glue on here. This is not RTV. Kind of just a glue, makes everything sticky. Dries clear, you can peel it off after. Should help block that. Combination of this and the dowel pins on the inner primary casing section will help lock this gasket in place where it needs to be. I'll smear some of that on there and grab my board. Cleaning up the gasket real quick with a little bit of brake clean. Try and dry off some of the residual oil on here before we slap it together. Alright, so there's two dowels on the outside. This will go here and here. I'll just mate these up. Like so. Then we grab our primary. Like I said, I like catching that bottom corner around that spring first. Starting up at this front corner. Just kind of ease up on these. I'm not torquing them down or anything yet. I know I dropped one. So there's the primary install. Quick tap tap on these. Aluminum cover. Aluminum case, don't go crazy. Just snug. So, we have our shifter seal. Just going to rest this on here, putting a new one in. So we'll do that later. Foot peg nut, and then we have our tensioner bolt. Just fine thread on that one. 1/2 inch. By that I mean 9/16. There you have it. The primary is installed. Now on the tensioner shoe, in order to check that, we need to pop out our Chevrolet symbol. Let's see what I got for that. There is a Harley tool for that I don't have. Hopefully I shouldn't need it. I'm going to be replacing these two, I think. Not in there too tight today. They sell the same thing with an actual socket head, like a bolt on the outside, bolt head on the outside. So here's our chain tensioner. Don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see in here. So your access for your chain, you can see the chain sitting up here at the top. Lots of play in here. If you come around to the bottom of the motor, like I said, you got that stud that goes through the primary. If I push up on this, I'm just now hitting the bottom of that tensioner shoe. But the slack on this chain goes away as I start threading this in. You don't want to set this super tight. You do want some play in here. That is a flathead at the bottom, but I don't have a flathead attachment, so I'm probably going to wait to snug this up for a final. I'm just going to leave it loose right now, and I'll do the final torque on that in the bike. But basically, you're going to put a flathead at the bottom of this nut, or stud, hold that in place, and then just tighten down your lock nut, and that'll lock it exactly where you need it to be. So that's all good there. Clutch cable, just got to snug this up a little bit. It's all in and down proper. Just need to tighten up that nut into the case. 9/16 while this is floating. Like so. Set this back in here. Not all the way in. I'm going to leave this kind of loose too. And same thing on the clutch adjustment. I can't do that until we get it back in the bike. When parts come in, we'll finish this motor up.